So good morning, Mr. Avon and everyone. Thank you for joining with us today. On behalf of ICFOSS, I want to extend a warm welcome to you for joining as a speaker for the online session. So before inviting him for the session, we'll have his brief introduction. Mr. Avon is a New Jersey-based activist, community engagement professional, and a change maker. He currently does social cultural change work through his role at the Drupal Association, through his business WASP and Fee Consulting and Education, as a steering committee member for the organization Philadelphia Asian and Cure, and as a community advisory board member of TransTech Social Enterprises. He has 6 years of experience in anti-oppression education and program management, and 4 years of experience in organization development and conference management. He has his Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science from East Carolina University, his Master's of Arts in Sociology from University of North Carolina at Wilmington, and a European Minor of Education and an International Perspective from HN University of Applied Sciences. Mr. Vaughan will be introducing you the Drupal Association, the activities they are involved in, and the job opportunities of the Drupal technology. So we are thrilled to have you here to share your knowledge and experiences with the audience. So with that, I welcome you for the session, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm feeling a little bit shy hearing my expertise written out like that, but thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm very honored to be here. And I was excited that Thomas and Tara asked me to speak. So I have a short slide presentation, but after that, we can also just kind of do like a Q&A kind of conversation as well. So I won't like bore you too much with slides, but just wanted to go over a couple of things. And can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, it's visible.
Perfect. All right. So you all are, I'm assuming, familiar with Drupal as the content management platform. You've been in this training program, but I wanted to just kind of provide a high level of Drupal, what it is, what the Drupal Association does, and what the resources are for talent and the job market and the workforce right now. So that's what I'm going to be going over with you today. So some of this might be review for you, but Drupal, what is it actually? So it's a free open source content management system that's leading a digital transformation across industries. So what that means is it's not owned by a central company. So anybody can use Drupal. You don't have to purchase Drupal from a provider like Squarespace. You can just go on Drupal.org, download code, and start using it, right? But in order to do that, you have to be able to code, which is why the Back to Work program is so important. So how does it improve your content management experience? So there's lots of different content management platforms out there, but you can integrate Drupal with a lot of different tools. It's really customizable. It's really flexible. And it's pretty sophisticated. So you can, for whatever purpose you might need Drupal for, you can use it, right? And it's really good for those like larger enterprise kinds of websites, right? So like anything with like integrating web forms or like has like multi-site integrations, things like that. So this is the Drupal ecosystem. So the Drupal ecosystem is global, it's vast, it is diverse. So we have over 8,000 code contributors from 1,000 companies in the past year. And so that's 8,000 individual people writing code for Drupal just to improve the product and the system. We have 46,000 developers. So these are software developers who are working full-time in Drupal all the time, and hopefully increasing that number with you all as you exit your program. There's millions of websites, and Drupal makes up 12% of the market share of content management platforms globally. And we've grown a lot. So So this number is actually for Drupal 8, and we're on Drupal 10 now. So we've probably grown even more from that, but I just don't have the statistics right now. But we have over 1 million users on Drupal.org. So Drupal.org is the centralized place where code contribution is housed. It's where you can connect with other people, find Drupal agencies, find the initiatives that are happening, events. Drupal.org is like your home base. And that number is growing all the time. I onboard anywhere from 30 to 50 people onto Drupal.org every year, just through community engagement and volunteering. The very first step is making a Drupal.org profile, right? So that number grows every year. So this is kind of the ecosystem that you're going to be entering into if you're to join Drupal. So I was just sharing about some of those integrated marketing tools. So Drupal as a content management platform can integrate with any of these. And if you're kind of in the front end or site building, content management, and marketing side of things, a lot of these will be familiar. So Salesforce, Twitter, Google Analytics, MailChimp, Shopify, Facebook, YouTube. And so these larger platforms that are used to circulate information to like big groups of people, Drupal is integrated with. So you have lots of different avenues to kind of utilize your Drupal skills depending on the site that you're working on. So we can create compelling content on more modern devices with Drupal. So the Drupal ecosystem on the back end is primarily Apple. Mostly the developer environment for Drupal developers is Apple products. But Drupal is, like I said, really flexible. So you can it optimizes your user experience on any platform, on any device that you're using around the world. And that's really important because that means it's future-proof, right? So as the world changes, Drupal will change to accommodate those needs, right? So it's high performing, right? So it's faster. You can optimize your deployment to run it even faster, especially now with the new features on Drupal 10. It is wicked fast, and the processing is much more sophisticated. You can migrate so much easier from 8 to 9 to 10. And so that, again, is about future-proofing, right? For high-impact websites, high performance. Simplicity for editors. So we have it's really exciting. We just migrated our events website, events.drupal.org to Drupal 9. And like paragraphs is so smooth. It's so easy. So if your interest is more in like marketing and design or site building, Drupal has a really user-friendly editing interface. So you don't have to be a PHP developer in order to be a site builder and build out really beautiful, sophisticated websites. So we're a leader in multilingual. So we have multilingual modules that make it easy for sites to have automatic translation. This is really important for Drupal as a global platform. And the Drupal community is a global community, right? So it's really important that we are able to build websites that have functionality in the languages, in the native languages where people are speaking. And these modules are developed by code contributors, just like you or me, who are native speakers in those languages. So this is pretty self-explanatory. So it's like I've said this a few times, Drupal is really flexible. Can you kind of use it for whatever you need it for, right? Static site, forms, secure data processing and storage, like you can use it for anything, right? And it's highly secure. So one of the benefits of open web in general, so not just Drupal, but the open web broadly, is that the open source technology is more secure. That's one of the largest benefits, I would say, of open source technology, right? Because it is not owned by a single company. Code is coming in from all over the place, right? So that's why a lot of people choose open source, and Drupal is a lead in that area too. And then accessibility. So being able to build in accessible tools for your users. Drupal makes that really easy. Accessibility is a huge career pathway for people in Drupal. Tons and tons of Drupal developers go into accessibility as their area of expertise or specialization. So if that's something you're really passionate about coming out of this program, the Drupal landscape is a great place for this. Creating features for folks with disabilities, working on live captions, working on text modification, screen reader support. There's tons of those opportunities. And there's always a need for folks working on accessibility in Drupal. Awesome. So coupled, decoupled, and headless. So I don't have a tech background, like you all were sharing kind of at the beginning. My expertise is really in talent and education, right? So I'm not going to be able to tell you what coupled, decoupled, and headless is. But the reason I included this slide is because there are a plethora of resources on Drupal.org, including our, in addition to our YouTube channel that has tons of educational tools that really breaks this down in accessible ways. And so I think, and I wanted to use myself as an example as a non-coder, that I might not know what it means right now, but I can go to YouTube or Drupal.org and I have those resources. And those resources are really beneficial when you're navigating the job market. So you always have an opportunity to continue to upskill even after you leave the program. All right, so Drupal careers. So this is our most recent data from 2022. And I'm sorry, I did not convert this from USD. I do apologize. I should have done that in advance. So this is in US dollars, but pay range is going to depend on your area of focus and also the regional market. It depends on, the country that your employer is based in. But these are the kinds of salaries that you can expect, from entry level all the way up to senior level as a Drupal developer. And not even just as a developer, but working in marketing, like in site building, even in project management. There's so many different types of jobs that you can do in Drupal. So these are just kind of some estimates of what a salary that you might expect coming out of this program moving into the Drupal landscape. So where do you find these kinds of jobs, right? Like we're kind of talking about what Drupal is capable of, what the specializations are. Where do you find the jobs? So Drupal.org, right? So Drupal.org has a job platform called Drupal Jobs, and anyone who is in the Drupal ecosystem can post a job onto this job board right on Drupal.org. And it's integrated with Drupal.org as well as some of the other like workforce development platforms that you might be familiar with, like Indeed or LinkedIn. But the cool thing about Drupal jobs is that that they're in the Drupal sphere, right? So rather than kind of looking in the job description for Drupal, that these are in this ecosystem that we've been talking about. So you can create a profile, you can upload your resume, you can set job alerts for the types of jobs that you're looking for or interested in. And you can check it pretty regularly. And you can filter by location. Lots of jobs in Drupal are remote. One of the, great things about Drupal, the Drupal like environment and ecosystem is a lot of Drupal agencies have been remote long before COVID. So there is kind of that like workforce standard. So this is one of those places that you can look. Other places that I would really recommend in looking for jobs in Drupal is LinkedIn is a really powerful tool. So just kind of seeing like, who do you know? Who are you connected with? Who maybe is working in the field that you're working in. And a really great way to start building out that network of connections is plugging into the Drupal community through contribution. Right. So contribution is a huge, huge thing. Strategic initiatives, you start to become like part of that ecosystem, both locally and globally. So Drupal Jobs is a great place to look. And so I wanted to share with you all some enterprise companies that use Drupal. So these are companies that we refer to as an end user. So these are organizations whose website is built on Drupal. And these kinds of end users also hire in Drupal because they need folks and developers to maintain their pages, right? A lot of them do use Drupal agencies, so they'll like outsource that labor, but a lot of them will hire internally. So I just kind of wanted to share some examples with you of enterprise companies that use Drupal. So DHL is a shipping company. And so you can kind of read through why they chose Drupal. But DHL is a global shipping company. So they ship all over the world, right? They're an e-commerce platform as well. So this is one example of a company that uses Drupal for their website. Wendy's. So this is like an American fast food chain, right? Very popular. They have a really funny Twitter account. And I know that they are really memeable, but they're a huge corporation, right? So they are partnered with Acquia. So this is kind of just a quote from the head of digital analytics at Wendy's. So kind of sharing why they chose Drupal. So they called it a Cinderella story, which I thought was pretty cute. Kind of like a rags to riches situation. So Lush is a beauty brand. So they sell like bath bombs, body wash, toothpaste, anything you might imagine. And they use all natural ingredients. They're a really, really popular beauty brand. They're, I believe, originally from the UK, but now they have stores everywhere, right? And so they are an end user that uses Drupal. Wilson is a sports platform. So they sell like sports equipment, tennis rackets, gloves, baseball bats, all that kind of stuff. And again, it's an e-commerce platform, and it's a really reputable brand. And then NBC Sports again. So NBC is a huge sports network in the United States, but they also do some global coverage as well. So these are all companies that use Drupal. And so when you're looking for a job in whatever area of expertise you're focusing in on, going directly to company websites and searching their job pages for the types of jobs that you're looking for is really advantageous. A lot of companies really prefer you to apply through their company website versus like LinkedIn or Indeed, because it does show like an investment in that organization if you go directly to their platform. So those are some pretty big companies, right? There might not be your entry-level roles, but that's kind of the landscape that you're entering into that you might have the opportunity to work with after a couple of years, right? Especially if you go to work for a Drupal agency. So Drupal agencies work with clients like this all the time. So the more that you get out there, the better your network is going to become and the more connections you're going to make over time. One of the ways you could do that is working with us at the Drupal Association. So the Drupal Association is a nonprofit organization, so we help steward the Drupal project, and we also support the people working in Drupal, whether it's volunteers or contributors or our partner agencies, or we have a program as well where we support up and coming Drupal talent, kind of similar to like the Back to Work program. So we have lots of avenues of plugging in, particularly around like Drupal cons and other kinds of volunteer experiences. So this is just getting you kind of an overview of the DA, as we call it for short. So we host and maintain Drupal.org, right? So we keep the lights on over there at Drupal.org, and we help provide tools for people to contribute. We help keep Drupal secure, so we maintain the security. We spearhead initiatives to support diversity and inclusion. So that includes partnering with organizations who share our mission. We have a DEI program that we do internally. We have a talent program. We also do a lot of DEI initiatives at DrupalCon and work to ensure that people who maybe traditionally didn't have a lot of space or opportunity in Drupal, that we make space for them. And we help the community do the same, right? So kind of like trying to set that example and provide resources. So we're kind of behind the scenes, making sure that, we keep everything running and providing people what they need in order to be successful. So these are our key programs. I just shared about Drupal.org. We also run DrupalCon, which is coming up in June, which is exciting. And then Drupal Talent and Community. So DrupalCon, I know that there are oftentimes globally some travel restrictions in making it to DrupalCon, but the cool thing about DrupalCon is that we have tons and tons and tons of opportunities ahead of the event that are volunteer, that are virtual, where you can gain that experience and connect with the community in a broader context, and start fostering those connections, even if you're not necessarily able to come to the event in person. There's tons and tons of those kinds of opportunities. So we have like summit committees where we plan summits. We have translation assistants where we like translate materials into other languages. We have like a mentoring program where you can join virtually and help support the Drupal mentors. So the Drupal Association is a great way to start building out your network as well and kind of making those key connections at Drupal agencies. So this is kind of the nugget. So contribution is the most powerful proxy for expertise in the open source world. So what that means is the more that you are able to contribute back to an open source project, the stronger your portfolio is going to be over time. And there's lots and lots of ways to do that. You can, do some accessibility testing. You can check out the issue queue and see, what are the things that are most critical that need support. You can do bug smashing. There's lots of opportunity with the strategic initiatives to get your contribution up. So I would highly recommend an avenue into the job market is definitely doing contribution and giving back to the project in addition to building your code skills. So that's all I had for this presentation, but I also wanted to quickly, I'm going to stop sharing so I can reshare. I'm just wanted to share with you all the issue queue in case you haven't seen it. If you have, this might be repeat for you. But I think it's a good way to kind of just see where contribution is happening on Drupal.org. So this is the issue queue. So Drupal.org/project/issues. And you can navigate there here by going to issue queues. Oops, sorry, right here. So you can look and see what are the open issues that people need support on. And you can look and see like who owns that issue, who's the person seeking support. So this is a really good place to go if you're looking for ways to plug into contribution. And you can kind of see, exactly what it is they're looking for. Is it normal? Is it major? What's the status of it right now? So if you're looking for ways to plug in, I would definitely recommend that. And then you can also go to the community tab and check out any of these. So the contributor guides, forums, you can look at case studies of people using Drupal and then check out the strategic initiatives. So what are the core things in Drupal that we're working on right now that are, pivotal to Drupal's success. So Drupal.org really is your like jack of all trades website. You can pretty much find anything that you need on there. And then if you need to find us, you just go to Give and Drupal Association. So this is where we are. And you can find us in here anytime. We also have a blog, we have a newsletter, so you can check out what we're doing. And then if you ever are looking for a specific person, you can come right here to our staff page. So that is what I had in terms of formal presentation, but I would love to answer any questions that you have or talk about anything specific that you're curious about in the Drupal world, or provide insight into specific ways to plug in. So yeah, open floor, happy to answer anything that you might have. And go back over anything if you need me to. I've been told I talk a little bit fast sometimes, and I'm really trying to work on that and talk slower, but yeah, thank you so much.
So Vaughn, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I hear clients say that Drupal is costly. Like how do you have that conversation with them? And yeah, for people getting into it as well as a Drupal developer, what do you have to think about along those lines?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that it can be costly depending on the avenue that you go through in order to build a Drupal site, right? So the biggest thing that I typically hear, and again, I don't have a coding background, so I'm really speaking as a primarily site builder, community manager, and like if I put my potential client hat on. But so hosting tends to be the biggest like expense, right? So finding a host. And then also there is kind of that cost and talent of having someone who can do PHP development to build a Drupal site, right? So that's kind of the trade-off with, doing some of those more out of the box things. What I would say is that the long-term profitability of a Drupal site, I think, makes it worth it. And the ability to, have the flexible design that you're looking for and customize the tools to the exact purposes that your organization needs. I really do think it's worth it because, and the other thing is too, that your site's not going to go anywhere if, you're with a private enterprise digital content management platform, and then say they, lose all their money one day and they close, right? And then your site is gone. That's not going to happen with Drupal because it's open source. So I think, those are the kinds of things that make it worth it. There are also ways to have a reduced costs of the Drupal platform. So using those more out of the box tools. A lot of the strategic initiatives now are really focused on out of the box tools for more like site builders and marketers, project managers rather than coders. So utilizing those out of the box tools, and then finding a lower cost hosting platform, or I mean a hosting provider. I'm sorry. And then I think you can also do the Drupal development side of things, like the back end and the front end actually in-house. So rather than like outsourcing, your Drupal developer, like if you train an internal person, that's a long-term investment on the health of your website. And so, hiring someone internally at your business or organization who can do Drupal, then that becomes, part of your organization long-term. So that's what I would say. I'm sure my colleagues at the Drupal Association who are developers would have a more robust answer than me, but that would be my perspective on that.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, that's helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Does anyone have career questions that they're like feeling anxious about coming out of the program that they want to know?
I
I
think
guess
we'll be
another,
passing on the mic to the participant there. So for the questions, so yeah, just give it a little time, and there will be questions, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello. Yes, I do have a question before they get around. You did speak a lot about how even if you're not into coding and you don't really have a tech background, you did talk about the opportunities we could have. But could you stress upon if we want to work into the Drupal, Drupal.org, Drupal Association, what are the kind of things we have to kind of build upon first, despite not having a tech background, but we do want to get into that aspect of it. Can you like emphasize a little bit on that? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say there's tons of non-code roles, and the biggest skill sets that I see that are necessary, if you're working towards being a developer, or if you're just not interested in development and you are interested in more of those non-code related roles, I would say the biggest things are project management skills. So being able to be really detail oriented, look at a project, understand the tasks that need to get done and on what timeline, and then understanding who are the best people to execute those tasks. That is a vital skill set. And that's true from project management at like a big company all the way down to like volunteering, right? So I do a ton of project management in Drupal. I would say that's probably a big part of my role. Probably like 60% of my time is spent doing that. So, I manage how many, I think 8 volunteer committees for DrupalCon. And all of those volunteer committees have different tasks towards different goals, different deadlines. And so having those like task management, project management skills are really, really foundational, I think. There's also like a huge avenue for technical writing. So being able to write, copy, whether it's for a website, social media, something like that, or blog posts about Drupal. So being able to give a voice to the things that we're working on in open source broadly, but especially Drupal. So writing skills are really, really helpful. And then I would say documentation is a big one, and probably the biggest one actually. So documentation is the process with which people capture what they're working on Drupal.org. So if you go into that issue queue and you go into like a really good issue, right? So maybe it's like a strategic initiative issue. The project browser initiative is a great example of folks who are really good at documentation. So you go to the project browser, you can see every single thing that they did in that particular issue, who did it, giving credit for those things on what timeline and speaking to exactly what it is, whatever code that they developed. So documentation is a really big skill set too. One thing that we see a lot in the marketplace, among like Drupal certified partners or supporting partners, which are our agencies that partner with us to provide Drupal services. One of the things that makes their profiles really, really strong is if they have a robust issue queue, meaning that the people that work there are contributing to Drupal and the issues that they contribute are really detailed. And so having really strong documentation skills will also be, I think, a really, really strong skill. And I think those will definitely like platform you push you forward in your pursuit of a career. And then I would also say being able to have like agile collaboration. So that's the fourth one I would say. So being able to work with lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, be able to be kind of flexible, and move in different directions when you need to. So sometimes, you're working on something and then you realize halfway through, oh crap, this isn't working anymore, right? So being able to come up with a plan and working really well with other people to come up with that plan to move something forward. All of those are non-code skills that I think are essential in working in Drupal.
Yes, thank you so much. That was good.
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a great question. I'm very passionate about non-code skills and non-code contribution. I think they're equally as important in Drupal because code doesn't write itself, at least not yet. It's people writing code. So we definitely need each other.
Hi, Mr. Vaughn. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's late there.
Yeah.
So what I would like to ask is that Mr. Thomas, if I got it right, had mentioned in his intro talk that you guys have like one-on-one mentoring programs over there. So we'd also love that in the APAC nations, because if we had the right guidance, we would have gotten here a lot sooner. And we would like to become code contributors at some point down the line. Also, can you speak to the how Drupal developers are working with OpenAI, and where do you see things going from here? Thank you.
Yeah, that is a great question. So I don't think I have an answer for the AI question right now, because again, I'm not a developer. I would love to have our engineering team speak on that a little bit more. But in terms of mentoring, I can answer that. So our mentor program is actually not by the Drupal Association, it's by a group of community mentors, and it's totally global, right? So I think a great way to plug into that, if you're seeking a mentor, or just like looking to get connected with mentors, the Drupal Slack is a great place to do that. So what I will do is I will pull the invitation link for you. And maybe I can drop it in the chat, and someone can share it out for me to you all. So Drupal Slack has a lot of channels that are specifically directed towards mentoring. And I would say that's primarily where the mentoring initiative happens. I think also a great avenue for this is the community events page on Drupal.org. So a lot of community events are virtual. We have Global Contribution Day that happens every year. That's totally online. And Global Contribution Day is a great way to meet international folks contributing all over the world and finding those mentors. And kind of like cultivating those one-on-one relationships. We have, as part of our Discover Drupal program, which is a specific program that we do for marginalized talent in the United States, that program matches our students directly with a mentor to help cultivate their skills. And we would really like to see that program be globalized. And kind of see it like replicated in other regions. So like I said earlier, as the Drupal Association, one of the things that we do is provide resources for other folks to be successful. And so we are really excited about being able to bring that program expertise and share it with others to like replicate and have it be beneficial in the different regions that they exist within, because every country is going to have their own group of contributors, right? So we really are passionate about making sure that whatever your needs are where you live are being met by people who live near you, right? Having a global network is really important, but those local connections make a huge difference. So I put the Drupal Slack link in the chat, but I'm also going to drop this community events page. So this is where you can always find any events going on anywhere in the world. And so checking out these local events and finding ones that are, either virtual or hybrid or local to you, or, are within reasonable travel, I think would be great. The one thing I would say about AI is that I know that we are going to have to come up with a game plan eventually in order to like integrate Drupal with AI. And I know people are already doing it. So once I know that, I will be really excited to talk about it more and be more informed about that in the future.
Hello, all.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, I have this question that you spoke about non-code contribution, about contributing in documentation. Now, there is two types of contribution, right? One is paid contribution and the other is voluntary contribution. So I really know there is a scope for voluntary contribution, that's okay. But if some person who is not associated with any Drupal agency, who is a freelancer, if he decide to contribute and he need to get paid for the time he is spending because he is concentrating full time on this thing, what is the means for that for such a person? And don't just limit it to documentation. Maybe you could also say it about the coding line also. So recently one thing, this XTM had in a flash lost her job and had to go into the job market. And we know that regarding Drupal 10, a very big chunk of the code was actually written by her when she was a paid contributor of Aqua. So these things happen. So what is the arena for a person who is actually not associated with any agency to be a contributor and get paid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would say is I kind of have two answers for this. So, and you're definitely hitting on a core truth around contribution broadly, which is that 80% of contribution is sponsored, which means that it is being done by folks who are employed full-time at organizations and their whole job is to contribute to Drupal, right? So I kind of have two minds about this. One is for freelancing, you know, the gig economy can be challenging just because you're, you know, trying to navigate as a sole proprietor and you're trying to market your skill set. But it can also be really freeing because you kind of have the choice of which clients you work with. So you can advertise contribution as a freelance skill and kind of, you know, people can contract that out if it fits with their business plan. The other thing I would say to do is there are lots of foundations that are supporting open source work broadly. So finding some of those like foundation opportunities, like grants, scholarships, things like that. But I really think that the main avenue for having a sponsored contribution role where you're getting paid to do documentation and contribution is to identify organizations who prioritize open source as an ideology and care deeply about giving back to the projects that they are, you know, collaborating within, and seeking out those organizations for employment full time. And that doesn't necessarily have to be Drupal core, right? And so it can be contribution on, you know, it could be even like local community events. So if you have an organization or a business of some kind that does a ton of Drupal work in your region, and they're a big sponsor of local events pretty frequently, hiring someone who only does like event contribution. So submitting the events on Drupal.org, coordinating those events, you know, representing them, doing advertising and things like that. So there's lots of different ways to monetize your contribution as your career. Event organizing is just one way, but you know, even doing like content marketing, so marketing about Drupal itself, or you know, providing resources around how to contribute and why it's important to contribute. So developer advocacy is a really big role. So being hired into a developer advocate role or an open source advocacy role. But yeah, I think the most advantageous position to be in is to find an organization who is going to hire you full time in order to spend your 100% of your working time getting paid to do contribution. And a lot of them do hire for code contribution. Some of them are split time, right? So you might be working on their specific things as well as contribution. And that percentage is going to vary based on the organization. But I definitely think that there's lots of those roles out there. You know, Angelina just picked up, you know, a core contributor as well, like you mentioned. So yeah, lots of different opportunities to do that. I think it's just finding an organization that's aligned with your goals and what you want to do, and also fits like your needs as an employee. And that's going to support your career growth and, you know, enable that contribution full time.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really good question. Anything else I can answer for you all?
So anyone else? Anyone from the audience? So anyone from the participants?
It's okay if there's not.
Okay, sir.
So one, if I might ask you to talk a little bit more about one thing. So this particular program that you are addressing at the moment is part of what is called as a back to work program.
Yep.
It is supported by Government of Kerala, and ICFOSS is the nodal agency who is running this program.
Mhm.
So the intent is to bring more women into the workforce. Anyone who has not been able to pursue a career for any reason, like let's say break due to maternity or marriage or anything of that sort. I believe Drupal also does quite a bit of work in this diversity, equity, and inclusion area. And perhaps this might, I mean, there might be some sense of synergy here. So can you talk a little bit more about what Drupal Association does on the DEI area? And maybe with that, we could, you know, perhaps conclude as well, if there are no further questions. That is. And
Yeah.
specifically, if you could look at it in terms of how women can contribute into Drupal, and are there any specific avenues for women to participate in the Drupal community? That's the nature of it. I mean, that would be good if you could talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. That's my favorite thing to talk about. And sometimes I get, sometimes people get tired of me talking about it. So I'm glad that you asked me about it. So one of the key aspects of my role at the Drupal Association is ensuring that we're moving from a values-driven place all the time. So everything that we're doing as an organization is centering the needs of people globally, but especially people who have not had the opportunities that other folks have had in society historically, right? So that is a core tenet of the work that we do. And we do that in a couple of different ways. So one of them is through DEI education in our community engagement strategy. So for anything to do with the Drupal Association program. So if you're volunteering with DrupalCon, if you're a mentor for Discover Drupal, if you're, you know, working on any of our community outreach programs, if you're partnering with us on something like this, we have like a DEI education component. So they'll go through kind of that like 101, like why is diversity, equity, inclusion important, and why does it matter? Why do we center that in everything that we do? So having that like foundational education and having it be a requirement of everything that we do in Drupal Association specifically. So, you know, we hold our partners to a certain expectation. We have it in our code of conduct for all of our events. So kind of just like setting that groundwork of expectation is kind of like step one, right? And then step two, we have, and I guess 3, 4, and 5 and onward, we have a lot of initiatives that are focused specifically on folks who are marginalized. So we have a Women in Drupal luncheon every single year at DrupalCon, where we focus specifically on women's experiences in Drupal, empowering women in the Drupal community, celebrating women's success. We do it at DrupalCon North America and DrupalCon Europe every year. And this is extremely important because what most social science research around gender equity and around gender empowerment, particularly in the workforce, is to have role models who share your identity and are succeeding in the areas that you want to succeed in, so that you have an example to look to and a pathway. And a lot of women who are successful in Drupal didn't have that pathway and kind of carved it out for themselves. They created it. And so that has been, I think, really foundational. And I think that if you go over to our socials, we're celebrating a lot of those women on our social media this month to kind of like highlight the women that are doing that kind of work in the Drupal sphere. It is like Women's History Month this month. And so that is a really good place to kind of start identifying some of those folks who are in Drupal, who are women and have been successful in the Drupal community. And I honestly don't think there is a replacement for that like one-to-one connection with somebody. And even if it's, you know, just connecting on LinkedIn or sending a Drupal Slack message and saying like, hi, saw you on the Drupal Association Twitter, just wanted to be connected. But so highlighting those experiences and creating space. So the Women in Drupal luncheon in North America is a closed space. And what that means is that it is a space by women for women. So those are the only people in that room. And that's really important to have those affinity spaces, right? And then our talent education program, like I was mentioning before. So our Discover Drupal program is a program that's specifically designed to empower marginalized people financially and professionally through jobs in Drupal. So they have a training program that they go through with like a core Drupal curriculum. They're paired one-to-one with a mentor, and they're also provided with a network of mentors. They have hands-on support during office hours every week. They build out a final project, which includes a portfolio site and a code sample, and then they come to DrupalCon as their graduation. So that I would say is one of our largest programs that we do. We usually have anywhere from 4 to 6 graduates. And some of our graduates have gone on to work at Canopy Studios or Urban Institute, as well as some universities. So that's what we're working on currently. We're also building out a larger talent and education program over the next couple of years, which includes these kinds of partnerships, right? So making these connections globally with people who are actually doing that work in the countries where they live. So something that I personally put into all of the work that I do is I'm not, you know, the keeper of the keys. I'm not going to know everything about everything everywhere. And so I think it's really important to put people in the driver's seat who are living that experience every day. So we're going to be expanding our global partnerships throughout the year. We're also hoping to and anticipating bringing back community development grants. That's something that we used to do before the pandemic, where we would provide funding to folks working in the community who are from more marginalized backgrounds, who are trying to get Drupal initiatives off the ground. So like Saban asked me earlier, that might be, you know, sponsoring contribution for a specific population. It could be, you know, developing a Drupal school in, you know, a country that's not the United States or somewhere in Europe, right? So those are things that we're hoping to scale back up again post-pandemic, and you know, building out those opportunities globally even further. So I'm really excited for all the things that we're going to be working on over the next couple of years. And I'm excited to already have this relationship and partnership with you all.
On that point about connecting with possible role models, is there something that you can facilitate for this current batch of the Back to Work program? And you don't have to answer it immediately, but can you look at it in terms of a possibility?
For what specifically? Could you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
The see, most of the people in the program are fairly new to Drupal, and the community is also a bit of a black box for many of them, right?
Yeah.
So is there a possibility for Drupal Association to sort of usher them in and maybe, you know, do the or get the handshake going between a potential role model and the individuals here?
Yeah, I love that idea. I can't say yes or no right now because that's a
That's fine,
decision
yeah.
that's larger than me, but I will say personally, I would love to do that. So what I can say is I will bring that idea back and I will talk about it with the folks on our team who are involved in community engagement and development, and see what we can maybe potentially do. And I will most definitely follow up because I think that would be great. But I just can't commit right now.
Hello, and I have this to add to that question actually. That is in North American region, we have this Drupal Con. In New Zealand, Australia, we have the Drupal South. In Europe, we have the Drupal Con Europe. So, but such a larger conference is non-existent in my view in the Asian, especially the South Asian sphere. So can Drupal Association actually try with the local Drupal associations in these Asian countries to actually build up a DrupalCon kind of a major event in the Asian countries, so that more people in this area would be interested in this, would come through as better Drupal developers. Already we have many people working in Drupal in various agencies in various countries, but primarily migrated from Asian countries. So how can we impart a good, how can we have a good talent pool developed from these maybe underdeveloped areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Drupal Association actually doesn't facilitate events internationally. So we are the project lead for, like, we own DrupalCon North America, and then we advise and liaise DrupalCon Europe, but Drupal South is actually independently run. And so what I would say, kind of where I see the Drupal Association's role in empowering local meetups is maybe just making some of those like connections with our event organizers working group. So there's an event organizers working group whose like whole wheelhouse is supporting events like local Drupal events globally. So plugging into that environment and kind of like reaching out to those folks who are the leaders in that space and just kind of getting their opinion, like asking them, you know, how do you organize your local camps? You know, there's like a big network of local Drupal camps in Europe as well, and like outside of DrupalCon Europe, you know, there's like Drupal Jam and Dev Days and things like that. So all of those events are actually organized locally by people who live there. So the Drupal Association doesn't necessarily facilitate those events. I think that we would love to be able to do more with local events, but right now with the size of our organization, we're just not able to provide that degree of support. But what I can say is we can facilitate those community connections and helping you meet people who organize events all the time, who've been organizing events for years. Drupal South is a great example. So that's totally volunteer run, but it's really well organized. So I think, you know, getting in touch with those folks. And then I would also say kind of outside of the Drupal community, if you know someone locally or you tangentially know someone who runs events, you know, in your region of any kind, it doesn't have to be a Drupal event, right? It can be any kind of event. Like maybe they, you know, do like fundraisers throughout the year, or, you know, anybody that has experience like booking venues, you know, soliciting sponsors, you know, planning out programs, like that kind of stuff. Even if it's not Drupal or technology related, just those event planning skills, reaching out to those folks and seeing if they'd be interested in partnering on a local meetup. And I would say to start small and then scale up, right? So, you know, even DrupalCon, the first DrupalCon was only, I think, 40 people, right? So, you know, just kind of like building that annual cadence and building up those skill sets over time with the people who are in your community. Maybe even like reaching out to professional event planners who live near you and just like asking them, you know, what their recommendations are. You can even access like travel bureaus. A lot of the work that we do is through travel bureaus. So I'll reach out to, like, for example, DrupalCon Pittsburgh is coming up soon. So I might email Visit Pittsburgh and say, hey, I'm planning to do event like a cocktail hour with like 40 people. where's the best place to do that, and do you have a contact for that, right? So really like plugging into your local community, even if it's the community that's not necessarily related to Drupal. But so that's what I would say, event organizers, working group, local community, and then also just volunteering with one of the Drupal cons will also help build that skill set a lot. Even if you don't attend in person, like being involved with a Drupal con and like supporting the planning process will help build that skill set up a lot faster too.
Hi. Hi, Mr. Vaughn.
Hi.
I want to share my little experience regarding Drupal. I'm newbie in Drupal content management system. I have little experience in Drupal. While using Drupal, a lot of incredible features that were fascinated me. For instance, its module features like core module, contributor module, and custom modules. Compared to other framework, for instance, Laravel. If I use Laravel for making interactive website, there is a lot of daunting task for me, because we can write every code for everything, like SQL queries, table, even form. There is lot of field that manually we can coded. But in the case of Drupal, there is lot of features. That is really amazing features. Now I am very confident to make interactive website with the help of Drupal. It's like a piece of cake for me. Thank you.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That makes me so happy. And I had a similar experience. I had no code background, and now I'm rocking and rolling on the events website. I'm like building out all the pages. So I'm really appreciative of you sharing that. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Vaughn. Hi. Actually, from your presentation, that was an awesome presentation. From that, I got a point that security. You have told many of the features that affect flexibility and then accessibility and security. I'm also creating a Drupal website. How can I ensure that my website is secure? What are the features that is providing Drupal for making us to confirm that our website is secure from the hackers? So how can I?
Yes, great question that I cannot answer because I'm not a coder, but I can tell you where to go to find the answer. So someone was sharing earlier, like, what are those non-code skill sets? One of mine is that I might not have the answer, but I know where to find it and I will find it for you. On Drupal.org, there is actually a whole page all about security that has a ton of resources on security, how to build security modules in. I just put that in the Zoom chat too. I hope someone's grabbing those links from me and sharing them with you all. So this also, this security page also just has regular updates about Drupal core security, but it also has links to how to write secure code. So you can access that guide. So if you're a Drupal developer, like you can read that handbook. You can integrate like the RSS feed for Drupal core so that you're always getting those updates, on Twitter as well. Getting involved with the security team, finding out who those people are. And then there's also like checklists on here. So you can go and you can look and see, what are the things that I need to include. And then lastly is we have something called Drupal Steward. So Drupal Steward is an app that the Drupal Association actually provides at a cost, but it is a protective measure for websites. So you can integrate Drupal Steward with your website. And so all that information can be found on the security page. In terms of the specifics, I can't answer that because I'm a non-code contributor. But I would definitely recommend you getting connected on that page and seeing who the people are that can answer that for you. So like our security team is linked here, particularly Neil Drum, who works at the Drupal Association, and then Michael Hess as well is a core contributor for security. So definitely head their way and get integrated in Drupal.org and accessing those resources. But that's probably one of the most important things, right? And one of the biggest reasons that people choose Drupal is because they can feel secure that their data is going to be safe rather than maybe some other platforms.
Okay, really, thank you, sir.
Yeah, great question. Sorry, I don't have the code answers, y'all.
Hello, Mr. Won.
Hi.
As you know, we are new at Drupal and we are excited for making websites in this. And I want to know that, can you discuss some common performance problems or bottlenecks a developer can face in this development time? And can you suggest some recommendations for overcome this?
Yeah, so you mean performance like related to your job performance specifically? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I'm asking about some common performance, some common performance issues that I may face through my journey in the development.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool. So I would say a big thing that I hear from companies that are hiring Drupal developers is being able to solve those really complex problems, right? So a lot of times, you'll be a junior developer and you'll be working on, alongside senior developers who, will be mentoring you and bringing you in with them. And so the quicker that you get a handle on solving those complex problems, I think the better your career trajectory will be. So anytime you can do hands-on learning of some kind is really helpful. There's also like Drupal training programs that you can get into that sometimes have scholarships as well. So anytime you have an opportunity to upskill would help a lot. So being able to get to that like mid-level area quicker in your journey, I think is going to make a big impact on your performance outcomes. I would also say that one thing that I hear folks run into is kind of Drupal being a 201 coding platform or language for developers. So going back to upskilling again, so already having a background in PHP is really helpful. Also understanding JavaScript is really helpful. JavaScript will, give you an advantage as well in kind of getting more to those complex problems. And then I think another thing that can be really advantageous is building out relationships with folks who work in other open source languages who also maybe use Drupal. Like Mautic is a good example. Mautic and Drupal have a pretty hand-in-hand relationship. And so the more expansive your skill set is, the better your performance is going to be long time. So I would just say like continuously learning and identifying really strong people who are good at the thing that you want to be good at, and really like learning from them and like digging in and building those skills and upskilling whenever you have the opportunity to do that. I have seen a couple folks run into feeling some like burnout, or like they're like pre-scared of being burnt out because maybe like, you're all new at Drupal, right? Like I know when I first came into the Drupal community, I was like, wow, it's a lot going on here. Like I am a little bit intimidated. I'm a little bit nervous. And so that's something that I see folks run into sometimes, where kind of the feeling overwhelmed or intimidated can sometimes take over your brain a little bit. And so finding like a good accountability buddy or ally or friend, even like, if it's someone that you're leaving this program with, that you can kind of like, encourage each other, or it's like finding a mentor or finding just someone in the community, even if they're not working on the same stuff that you're working on, like finding someone who's really going to be your champion. Like I'm a huge believer in champions, especially senior level champions. So like the Drupal Association leadership team really championed for me when I first started, and they were like, I know it's really scary, but you're doing a great job. Like, just keep at it. And so like finding those champions who are going to cheer you on is going to help with that too. And just, sticking with it and knowing that you're capable of it and that you're able to solve those complex problems, like you will definitely get there.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the participant side? I think they're done with that, sir.
Cool.
Okay,
you so
okay.
Thomas,
Thomas, sir,
before winding up, let me ask one more question. That's about the community working group is now imparting training on code of conduct training. So, what's the importance of this, and why should people who are involved in the Drupal community should once in a while take up such trainings?
Yeah, so the code of conduct training is extremely important. So like I mentioned earlier, code, at least right now, doesn't write itself, right? We're a community of human beings, and our code of conduct is one of the things that makes the Drupal community so strong. We have a code of conduct in Drupal, and then we have a Drupal Association code of conduct for Drupal events. So like DrupalCon has its own code of conduct and things like that. So I think going to a code of conduct training will really, really help you navigate the community in a healthy and positive way. But I wouldn't say that that is the only place to do that. I think it's essential and important, but it's not the only place to get that information. So there's tons of workshops out there. I facilitate a lot of these workshops on community health, community safety, like how do we take care of each other. But the code of conduct training really helps you understand like what are the values of the Drupal community and how do we interact with each other in order to make sure that there's healthy communication tools and styles between everyone in the community, and that we're looking out for each other. We're not letting people be harmful or discriminatory. We're not letting people harass each other. And so we're like building those really strong relationships that are foundational on like mutual trust and respect. And so I think in any community, that's really important. I think the code of conduct trainings are especially important if you want to run events. But I think anyone can benefit from them. But, like I said, that is one of many resources out there. There's lots of people who do this work professionally full time. That's my area of expertise. So I facilitate workshops like that frequently. But it's really important to be able to work collaboratively with people from all over the world from lots of different backgrounds in a healthy and safe way.
Thank you. That's all from my side. And I suppose you know me. We had conversed before. I'm the editor of the Drop Times.
Yes,
okay.
I recognized your name on the Zoom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you. I recognize a couple people's names actually, so that was really exciting. There's quite a few people here that I know, so thank you for having me.
okay, sir, ICFOSS and Zyxware Technologies sincerely want to appreciate the session you have presented. Thank you for accepting our invitation to speak and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. And without hesitation, you answered all the questions from our side. Okay, thank you once again for the wonderful session, and we are looking forward for more future presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to Dr. Raju for inviting me and welcoming me in, as well as Thomas and, everybody, and for you all listening to me talk for the last hour. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you all thrive and be successful and hopefully come back and talk to you again soon.